Ever get that creepy feeling when you walk into like an old house?
Yeah.
Like something's watching you?
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, you're not alone, but you feel like you're not alone.
It's primal, you know?
Right.
Humans, we're just hardwired to be wary of the unknown.
Especially in a place with history.
Yeah, especially like an old house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving into a story that takes that feeling and like cranks it up to 11.
Oh, wow.
The Snedeker family haunting. We're going to be using a clip from the Morbid podcast to guide our deep dive today.
Okay.
We have a really great episode on this. So the hosts, Ash and Elena, they go into like all the details about this family's really, really creepy experiences.
This is a fascinating case, you know, because it's not just your typical bumps in the night haunted house story.
Right.
It's got family drama, it's got psychological intrigue. So, like, how these events impact the Snedekers themselves is just as interesting as the events themselves.
Yeah. Setting the stage a little bit, this is 1986. We have the Snedeker family, Al and Carmen, and their 4 kids. And they were dealing with every parent's worst nightmare. Their 14-year-old son, Philip,
Oh, wow.
was battling Hodgkin's lymphoma,
Oh, no.
and he needed specialized treatment in Connecticut.
Sure.
They're living in New York at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were driving back and forth constantly for his treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just taking a huge toll on everybody.
Of course.
So they decided to just relocate.
Yeah, makes sense.
So Carmen, the mom, she's frantically looking for an affordable rental
Right.
that can fit their family of 6.
6 people, that's not easy.
No, not easy at all. And that's when she finds this like seemingly perfect house in Southington, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
It was spacious, seemed well maintained, had a for rent sign that was basically like begging them to move in.
Uh-oh.
But of course, there was a dark secret lurking beneath the surface.
There always is.
Right. A history that they had no idea about.
So what was the secret?
This house was a former funeral home.
Oh, no way. A funeral home.
Yeah. And not just any funeral home. Local lore said that the previous owner had dabbled in some pretty disturbing stuff.
Like what?
Like necromancy.
Oh, so we're talking dark magic.
Yeah.
Not just like, regular funeral home stuff.
Exactly. And the remnants of that past were not hidden at all. When they finally saw the first floor apartment that they were going to be renting, they made a chilling discovery in the basement.
What did they find?
Bloodstains on the walls, embalming tools just scattered on shelves, and a chain-powered body lift.
Whoa. Imagine finding that in your new house.
Right. I mean, talk about a nightmare.
So they just moved in anyway, after seeing all that.
Well, they were in a really tough spot. They couldn't afford to move again.
Right.
And Philip's treatment was their top priority.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So they made a decision that I don't know if I would have made.
What did they do?
They stayed.
Oh, wow. I mean, talk about trying to ignore the obvious.
Right.
Like, if we don't acknowledge it, maybe it won't acknowledge us.
Exactly. Maybe for a while it worked, but it wasn't long before things started to unravel.
Oh, here we go.
Philip, the son, who's battling cancer,
Right.
he starts sensing that something is off.
Okay.
He starts hearing disembodied voices calling his name from the basement.
Oh, no. Of all the places in the house, the basement?
Right. I mean, especially in a former funeral home with a body lift and everything.
So creepy.
And his mom, Carmen, she initially dismissed his claims.
Okay.
Figures he's anxious about the move, about his illness, all of that.
Yeah, understandable.
But then she experiences something that she just can't explain away.
What happened?
She's mopping the floor one day,
Okay.
and the water in her bucket turns blood red.
Whoa, what?
Yeah,
Okay, so now it's not just the kid. This is
Yeah.
mom. Now this is an adult having these experiences.
exactly. And from there, things just escalate.
Oh, no.
Philippe's younger sister, Stephanie, she starts seeing a woman in her room.
Oh, my gosh.
Like arms outstretched, like beckoning her.
That is terrifying.
I know, it's like straight out of a horror movie.
So these early encounters, they're definitely creepy,
Yeah.
but they still sound like pretty typical haunting stuff,
Yeah.
Disembodied voices, shadowy figures, things moving around.
Right.
But as the story goes on, things get a lot darker, a lot more disturbing.
Yeah, it goes way beyond just bumps in the night.
Okay.
And the family starts to really fall apart under the strain of all of this.
Of course.
Oh, the dad, he's trying to keep it together.
Mhm.
He wants everyone to just ignore it.
Just pretend it's not happening.
Exactly. Carmen, she's finding comfort in her faith.
I love
She's
it.
praying constantly, hoping for some kind of resolution.
Okay.
And then the kids, Philip and Stephanie, they're finding comfort in each other.
Right.
They know they're not crazy because They're both experiencing these things.
It's interesting how families cope with this kind of stuff. You know,
Right.
some people deny it, some people seek meaning in it, and then sometimes it brings people closer together, like in this case with the kids.
Yeah. You're exactly right. But the tension in that house, you could cut it with a knife.
Yeah, I bet.
Al's drinking to try to numb the fear.
Mm,
Carmen's at church all the time.
yeah.
And then Philip's behavior takes a really dark turn.
In what way?
He becomes withdrawn. He's defiant all the time.
Okay.
And he's fixated on the basement, the one place that he used to be terrified of.
That's not good. Do you think his illness was making things worse, or?
It's hard to say. Maybe the stress of everything was getting to him,
Yeah.
or maybe there was something more sinister going on.
Like he was being manipulated by these spirits he kept talking about.
Yeah, because now he's not just talking about the spirits, he's calling them his friends.
Oh, that's really creepy. His friends.
And that friendship leads to something absolutely horrifying.
What happened?
It changes the course of their story forever.
Okay. I'm on the edge of my seat here.
We're going to have to dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, I can't wait. So you were saying that Philip's behavior, like, took a really scary turn?
Yeah, it did. Like, the more time he spent in that basement, the more he was talking to these spirits, calling them his friends.
Yeah, his friends.
And then it culminated in just this awful act.
What happened?
He sexually assaulted his young cousins,
Oh my God, no.
Mary and Kelly. They were staying with the family at the time.
That is just horrifying.
I know. And to make it even more disturbing, Philip claimed that the spirits made him do it.
Oh gosh, so now we're talking about like free will, you
Right,
know?
right.
Like how much influence can these outside forces actually have on a person's behavior?
Yeah, it really makes you think, like, are we truly in control of our own actions?
Exactly. It's a scary thought.
Yeah. And, up until this point, the family had been trying to deal with the haunting themselves.
Yeah.
But after what Philip did, they knew they needed help.
So they called in the big guns.
Yeah, they did. They called Ed and Lorraine Warren.
The Warrens. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can't talk about hauntings without mentioning the Warrens.
No, you can't. They're like celebrities in the paranormal world.
Right. I mean, they've investigated everything from Amityville to the Enfield poltergeist.
So what did the Warrens think about the Snedeker house?
Well, they came in with their team, John Zaffis, Chris McKinnell,
Okay.
and they said they experienced tons of paranormal activity themselves.
Really? Like what?
Objects, moving voices, disembodied voices, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and even physical attacks.
Wow, they were really in the thick of it.
Yeah. And their conclusion was that the house wasn't just haunted.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
infested with demons.
Oh, wow. So this is beyond your typical ghost story now.
Right. This is like next level stuff.
So what did they do about these demons?
Well, according to the Warrens, they saw this demonic entity manifest in a bunch of different forms.
Okay.
He described it as old, cunning, really evil. And they said they even captured evidence of it on film and audio recordings.
But I thought a lot of their evidence has been disputed over the years.
Oh, yeah, definitely. A lot of people are skeptical of the Warrens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some people say they sensationalize things a bit,
Right.
you know, maybe embellish details to get more attention.
Yeah. It's hard to know what to believe sometimes.
It is. So did they try to get rid of these demons?
Yeah, they did. The Warrens said they arranged a full-blown exorcism with the Catholic Church.
An exorcism? That's intense.
I know, right? But that's where things get a little murky.
How so?
Well, the Warrens said the exorcism was done with the full support of the Archdiocese of Hartford.
Okay.
But when the press contacted the Archdiocese,
Yeah.
they denied any involvement.
Really?
Yeah, they said they had no knowledge of an exorcism ever taking place.
That's strange. So who's telling the truth?
I don't know. It's definitely suspicious.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the Warrens' methods, you know? Yeah.
Like, were they genuinely trying to help the Sneckers, or were they using this family's fear to make themselves more famous?
It's a good question. So what happened after this supposed exorcism?
Well, Sneckers moved out of the house.
Makes sense.
They said the demonic activity calmed down, but the trauma of everything they went through,
Yeah.
it was just too much.
I can only imagine.
But even their moving out is kind of controversial.
Really? Yeah.
Well, a skeptical researcher named Joe Nickel,
Okay.
he looked into the case, and he found out that the family was actually facing eviction.
For not paying rent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Warrens never mentioned that in their version of the story.
Interesting. So maybe they didn't move out because of the haunting?
Right. Maybe they just couldn't afford to stay there anymore.
Makes you think.
Yeah. And of course, the Snecker story blew up in the media.
Of course it did. It's a crazy story.
They were on all the talk shows, Sally Jesse Raphael.
Oh, yeah.
Maury Povich
I remember those.
is everywhere.
Yeah.
And then Ed Warren and author Ray Garton, they wrote a book about it.
In a Dark Place, right.
That's it. And it became a bestseller.
Wow, so now their story is immortalized in print.
Exactly. But even the book is controversial.
Really? How so?
Well, Ray Garton, he later said that he had doubts about the Sneckers.
He did.
Yeah. He said they were really hard to work with and that their story kept changing.
Whoa, so even the guy who co-wrote the book thinks they might be making stuff up.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So we have the Warrens saying one thing, the Snagers saying another, the Archdiocese denying any involvement.
Right. And then Ray Garton casting doubt on the whole thing.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it is. And it gets even more complicated.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. Daryl Kern, the landlord,
Okay.
he said he never knew of any paranormal activity in the house.
Okay.
And he even claimed that the Sniggers knew it was a funeral home before they moved in.
Really? So they knew about the history from the start.
That's what he says.
That's pretty different from the Snickers version of events.
Right. And then there's the family who lived in the apartment above the Sniggers.
Okay.
They said they never experienced anything unusual in the 2 years they lived there.
So if the house was really infested with demons, wouldn't they have been affected too?
Exactly. It's a good point. And then the neighbors across the street,
Yeah.
they said that a lot of the weird noises the Snickers were hearing
Yeah.
were probably just traffic.
Oh, from the road.
Yeah. So basically, we have a ton of conflicting accounts. Disputed evidence,
Hmm.
and it's really hard to say what actually happened.
So is it a real haunting, or is it all just a big hoax?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. It's like a Rorschach test, you know?
Right? Yeah.
If you want to believe in the paranormal, you'll see this case as proof. But if you're skeptical, you'll probably think it was all made up.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're willing to believe. You know, it's amazing to me how this case still grabs people, you know?
Yeah.
Even after all this time, all the scrutiny.
I think it's because we're all just fascinated with the unknown.
Right? Like, is there really something else out there?
Yeah, something beyond what we can see and touch.
Exactly. And the Snicker haunting, it's become like this pop culture phenomenon.
Oh, totally. Books, documentaries, a movie.
It's everywhere.
And every time the story gets told, it changes a little bit, you know?
Right.
Like a game of telephone.
Yeah. So it becomes harder and harder to know what really happened.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, like, why are we so drawn to these stories, even when there's no real proof?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's the thrill of the unknown.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, that possibility that there's more out there.
Yeah, or maybe it's a way for us to deal with our own fears, you know?
Like facing the darkness.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But there's also the human element too, right?
Right.
Like the Snedeker family, they were going through so much.
Yeah, their desperation.
Even if we don't believe in ghosts or demons,
Yeah.
we can still connect with that human story.
Absolutely. And their story, it's just heartbreaking.
It is.
Philip, you know, he kept fighting cancer all while dealing with these accusations and this alleged torment. And then he passed away in 2012.
Yeah, that's just so sad.
It is. It reminds you that there are real people at the center of all this.
Yeah, real people with real pain.
Yeah. So whether the haunting was real or not, they suffered a lot.
They did.
And I think their story, you know, it leaves us with more questions than answers.
For sure. Was it really demons?
Right. Or was it mental illness?
Maybe they made it all up.
Yeah. Maybe. We might never know for sure.
Probably not. But that's what's so interesting about it.
Yeah.
It makes you think critically, you know?
It does. It makes you question what you believe.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Me too. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Snedeker haunting, we want to hear from you.
Yes? What do you think happened?
Was it a real-life demonic haunting or something else entirely?
Let us know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of the paranormal.
And the unexplained.
We'll see you next time.